Hello, Keith Rucker here at VintageMachinery.org. Guys, today we're doing kind of a special edition of odds and ends in that pretty much I've got a whole table full of stuff here, but it all came from the same place. And it's a collection of tools. It's just miscellaneous stuff that I thought would be interesting to share because there's some unique stuff in here, and I'm going to try to just talk a little bit about it as we go along. So a little bit on the backstory first. There's a lot of stuff to cover here, so I'm going to kind of hit the high spots on this. I was contacted a couple of weeks ago by a viewer up in the Atlanta area. He was in the process of getting ready to move across country, and he had put together a little shop full of stuff, and a lot of his stuff he just wasn't going to be able to take on the move. It was just going to be too much, too heavy. That he's got to calculating how much it was going to cost to move it. It was just going to be too much, and he was looking to thin things out. He sent me a couple of pictures of some tool and die maker type tooling and asked me if I was interested in it. I was. We worked out a deal where I basically bought it from him. And to my surprise, when I showed up, not only did he have the stuff that we had talked about, but there was a lot more of stuff that he just said, you know, I'm cleaning out the shop. I can't throw this stuff away. Just take it with you. So I got a pretty neat collection of just miscellaneous small stuff here that's some pretty neat things. And he said that a lot of this tooling came from a tool and die making shop. In fact, I think it actually came from Lockheed Martin, makes aircraft up in the Atlanta area, military aircraft, which is interesting because I've got a lot of tools in my shop over the years that came out of Lockheed Martin up there because they've sold out a lot of tools at different times over the years. But a lot of these came out of their tool and die shop area. And anyway, we're going to be going through them. And Ginger's going to come up here and help supervise as we do that, evidently. Hello, Ginger. All right, let's get at it. Again, because of the amount of stuff I've got, I'm going to just kind of real briefly just talk about these and kind of tell you what it is, and I'm going to be putting a lot of this stuff up. I will say some of this stuff is it's just extra stuff to me. I'm going to put it in my bins that when I go off to sales and stuff that we'll be selling some of this and getting rid of it. Some of it I'll be keeping for myself. So anyway, let's get in here. First item here just to grab. This is a calibration gauge for a micrometer. This disc is 1 inch in diameter. This one is made by Lufkin Rule Company. These were made by lots of different companies. They often came with micrometers, and you would use this to just check your micrometer. For example, here's a micrometer that's in this set, a 0 to 1 micrometer. And you would stick that in there. Typically on a 0 to 1, you would just do it up on the other end, but we can check it here. We'll come in and do that. And it might need just a slight tweak, might be off by a 10,000th or two, but pretty darn close there. In fact, this one is a tenths reading. And it looks like it's 1/10,000th off. So we could change that if we wanted to. There's a little hole in the micrometer right here. You take a micrometer wrench and you basically just bend that barrel around until it lines up perfectly and your micrometer's in calibration. So anyway, just a little calibration tool. And since we got the micrometers out, there were a couple of micrometers in this lot of tools. Starrett, this is a 2 to 3 inch, number 436. This is just a thousandths reading one. Here's a Starrett. What is this? A number 230, and this one reads to a 10,000th of an inch, and it also has carbide faces on it, which helps with wear. So in a production shop, a lot of times they would put those carbide faces on there so they lasted longer. And this is a 203C Starrett, 0 to 1 inch, and this is just your plain Jane regular version. Reads to a thousandth of an inch, just regular anvils on it. All right. Up next, looks like some brazed on carbide tools here. These are like parting tools that you would use in a lathe. We've got some left and right-handed ones. These are still wrapped up in the protective coating on there, but again, handy for doing lathe work. And right here we got a bunch of wedges. These are for driving out Morse tapers. So on a Morse taper, here's a Morse taper sleeve. This is it's like a number, this is a 4 to a number 3. And here's a number 3 drill chuck. So when you put those together, you notice the tang comes up in this slot, and these tapers will get extremely tight. So to get them apart, you just take a wedge, put them in there, you bump it with a hammer, and that drives them apart. So these are just wedges for separating Morse tapers. And while we got the Morse taper stuff out here, let me pull this out. So this is a adapter, number 3 to number 2 Morse taper. So again, if you got a number 3 shank tool that needs to go into a number 4 socket, you can use this adapter to adjust them up. They're extremely handy. This is a number 3 to number 3 Morse taper here, and this is a Jacobs number 14N super chuck, nice chuck. And got another one here. This is a number 4 taper, and this is a, what is that, a 16N Jacobs chuck. So 2 nice chucks here. We'll have to put them in something to see how true they are. They're obviously used, so sometimes they work good. The nice thing about these Jacobs super chucks is you can rebuild them. You can take them apart. There's a kit that you can buy to put new jaws in them, and a lot of times that'll get one fixed back up. And there were also some drill chucks. This is just a dead center like you would use on a lathe, and this is a dead center. It's like a Morse taper number, what is that, a 4, but you got an adapter here that fits up into a lathe spindle to go from to a Morse taper number 4. And I don't know what taper that is offhand. There's nothing on here that says. All right, let's move on. Drill bits, and we got a miscellaneous hodgepodge of drill bits. So there's some taper shank stuff in here. So this just looks like a number 3 Morse taper, 13/16, a couple different sizes. Interestingly, there's a couple of drill bits in here like this one right here. Looks like they turned the shank down to fit it up into whatever size chuck they were needing. Here's another one where they didn't have a chuck big enough to hold that drill bit, so they put the drill bit in a lathe and turned the shank down so it fit. You know, you get in a pinch, you do that sometimes. I've actually had to do that in the past. Not ideal, but sometimes you just got to do what you got to do. So anyway, I got some drill bits here. Here's some brand new. These are number 28 drill bits. These are long reach ones. That's kind of nice. In the precision twist drill sleeve. That's good old new old stock drill bits. Some other ones up here. These says 27 on them, so I'm guessing those are number 27 drill bits. And we got some taper shank drills over here, some pretty good size ones. So these will be nice to add. I don't have many taper shank drills over 1 inch, so these will be nice to have. That one's 1.25 inches. I don't see that one there. Looks like it's been ground on and worked on. That one may not be any good. This one here, the shank is pretty nasty, but hey, it's got a nice cut up there, and I don't see the size stamped on there anywhere. Anyway, we'll put these up, and always nice to have some of these bigger size drill bits. Here's a mystery item. I'm not sure what this is. There's obviously a set of these. I thought at first that these might be ground to specific heights, but they seem to be random in length, and the increments, the steps in them are random as well. So yeah, I'm not sure what they are, but they make a nice stair step. But yeah, if you got an idea, leave a comment, but yeah, I'm not sure. Got a drill index here, and it's full of drill bits, and these are reduced shank drill bits. These are letter drill bits too, it looks like. I didn't notice that until just now. But these look like they're probably designed to fit in like a 1/4 inch hand drill or something like that, a smaller size chuck. But again, kind of interesting. Reduced shank letter drill bit set. Appears to be in pretty nice condition here. So here's something kind of interesting. This is a set of parallels that are 8 inches from top to bottom. These I mean, they still are, but they're not in the greatest shape. These were obviously made and ground to the same height, so probably done on a surface grinder, and that's was originally designed to be 8 inches apart. So if you needed to have a 8-inch spacer in something, here you go. These were likely built for some custom application, some custom job. I just noticed we got little screws there in the same place in one of them. So yeah, again, probably custom built for some specific job, but if I ever need a set of 8-inch parallels, I got them. Got some miscellaneous parts and pieces here, some bevel gauges, and this square center finder and a protractor head that fits on a piece like this right here, a rule. These are Mitutoyo. The other two, I don't see a name on them. They're just kind of whatever they are. But anyway, these are pretty nice Mitutoyo angle heads there. Yeah, that was in the pile. Something kind of neat here, you don't really see in machinist tools that often, although it could be used as a machinist tool. This is a hook rule, obviously, in inches, but this is actually, I think, what they call a printer's rule. If you look here, it says 10 PT, you got 6 and 12 PT and 8 PT. That's points for like text. So if you were a printer and you wanted to see how many characters you had, if you were using a 10-point font, you could put that on there and you could easily count how many characters. So this would have been used by the old-time printers that were putting the print block in by hand, or making it out, and you wanted to calculate how many letters you have in a certain distance. You could just use this, put up there, and count it out real quick. So yeah, kind of neat little tool. We got some stamps here, letter stamps. This is a very nice set, 1/8 inch height, really nice looking font on them. Nice set of letters and numbers that match. So really nice little set there. These are also stamps, but these were custom made, and these are teeny tiny. What is that? It said on there how height it was. Yeah, so the height of the letters is 3/64 of an inch. I had to get a magnifying glass to even look at these, but all of these are like part numbers. There's like multiple numbers here. So this one here is, what is that, 9 PT. So that's probably a part number. There's a bunch of different numbers in here that are already laid out. So my guess is that these were probably, where they were manufacturing something, they were stamping part numbers on something. So instead of having to go grab, this one here has 4 different characters in it. So instead of having to get 4 different stamps, it was just all in one, and you could just stamp it on there. Probably not very useful unless you just happen to need whatever letter combinations on there, but kind of neat that they had those custom made for part numbers, I'm guessing. I really like that letter number set. That's a nice looking font. I know that may sound crazy, but that's a really nice looking font of those letters. So we got a Starrett radius gauge set here. These are pretty nice little tools. If you're ever trying to figure out what the diameter or radius is of a something, these are really handy. You can just kind of come up in there. You notice you got both concave and convex. That right there is the angle. That's the radius. That's the radius. So depending on what you've got to measure, you can pretty much come in here and figure things out. So a lot of times, like particularly when I'm trying to copy a casting or something, I need to figure out what a radius is. These are super handy for that. Basically, you got a full set here. It's missing the 13/64, but all the other ones are in here. There was originally a little thing here that you could use to hold this, the little stem that you just kind of clamped on there. That's missing as well, but pretty complete set. And like I said, I don't use mine a lot, but they come in really handy when you need them. So nice little set there. So we got a R8 spindle fly cutter of some kind. Looks like you'd put a square shanked high-speed steel cutter in these. You could adjust the set screws in and out, but it'd take a piece of square shank high-speed steel and you could have 1, 2, 3, 6 different cutters on there. So that's kind of a interesting fly cutter, and that fits up in an R8 spindle on a milling machine. This is a nice little tool to have in your shop. This is a demagnetizer. So you basically just you plug it in, turn it on, and if you have like a screwdriver, you ever had like a screwdriver that gets magnetized and it kind of holds onto the screws or whatever? Sometimes you want that, sometimes you don't. You can use this to basically demagnetize something. So if you have a a tool that becomes magnetized. It could even be tool steel or something that's collecting up chips on it or whatever. You just turn this on, you put it on there and just kind of drag it off a couple of times and it'll demagnetize that area. It makes a vibrating sound. I've actually got one of these and it gets used quite a bit. Mine is exactly like this, but mine's, I don't see a name on it. This one looks like it's older than mine, but it's basically mine is the exact same size and shape and everything else. But those are really handy for demagnetizing tools. Got a set of Mitutoyo dial calipers here. The crystal's missing on this. That's not a big deal. I can send that up to Mark Rotowski, my tool guy, and let him probably go through. And it looks like it needs a good set of cleaning, or good cleaning, and needs a new crystal on it. But they do work. The needle's off just a little bit, but again, that's usually just changing the position of the gear on the rack in there. And there's also a little test indicator. This was made by Fowler, and it's a 0.005 increment test indicator. And it too appears to be working. So, got some clipper belt lacing. I use this for lacing flat belts all the time, and I use the Clipper brand. This is the number 1, which is the fine comb stuff. I've got a tool to crimp that. The number 1 takes a smaller size crimp tool than the number 2 and greater stuff. But for some smaller thin belts, the number 1s are really nice. So anyway, I do have a crimp tool for the number 1, and I'll put this over in my drawer with my other belt lacing because I can use that. And we have trays full of end mills, and these look to be mostly used stuff. There may be some new stuff in some of this. I mean, that looks like it's probably new, but for the most part, it's sharp. Here's one that's in the wrapper. That's probably a resharpen, I'm guessing. I don't know, but good stuff. Still got plenty of life in it, in various shapes and sizes. And I noticed here's some tapered end mills. Those are really nice. I'm gonna put those up for sure because I run into needing some of those every now and then for going down something with a taper on the side. So one of these, I think it was this one right here. These are all ball end mills. So the nose on the end is rounded over in radius. So those are real handy for some applications. Of course, most of these just have a 90-degree square cut on them. So anyway, good supply of milling cutters to use over on the milling machine. So basically what we got here is just an assortment of high-speed steel. This is what you would grind cutters out of, high-speed steel cutters. There were a few of them in here that were already ground, like they'd put a radius in that one. But most of this is unground high-speed steel. And I've got a cabinet drawer that I've been putting high-speed steel in. I'm just going to go put this in there. I need to get it all sorted. This is sorted out. I need to get all my other stuff sorted out by size so that when I go needing to grind a cutter, I can just go grab something and grind it. But some nice high-speed steel blanks here. There's another one with a radius. It's been ground in it. Anyway, and here's some stuff you can never seem to have too much of. This is some clamping and hold downs things here. So there's actually a set of clamps, hold downs up there. We got some of the pieces used to jack stuff up on, some T-nuts, hold downs, nuts, bolts, whatever. I got another drawer over here, a cabinet with a bunch of this kind of loose stuff in it. I think I'm going to go through them and get them separated out because, you know, like I said, you're always needing a spare T-nut here, there, or whatever. So this will be nice to kind of have some extra stuff laying around in addition to what's in my sets, just for clamping purposes. Like I said, it's just nice to have this stuff. These are really nice too. I've got some others of these as well. These are kind of come in here and clamp this down. This is on an angle, so when you clamp that down, it kind of toenails it in. So you need to clamp something on the bottom rather than on the top. These are really handy. I've got like I said, I got some more of these in various sizes that are extremely useful when you need to clamp something from the bottom rather than clamping it from the top. So if you got a piece that you got to mill the top off, but you need to clamp it down, like I said, you can put one of these on either side, or put two of them on here and go up against another flat piece on the other side and just kind of jam them down. It does a really good job. Anyway, we'll get these sorted out and put up in some cabinets. So we got a miscellaneous selection of lathe dogs. These are for turning between centers. You basically have a shaft with a center on each end. There's nothing to actually grip it on a lathe to turn it, so you clamp this on there and you put the little piece here up in your chuck or on a drive dog, and that's what actually spins the piece of metal. So these are really handy for turning between centers. I've got a pretty good selection of these, and I'm going to go through these and pick out the better ones and keep them. And I got a board I've been actually putting these up on, keeping them organized. So anyway, we'll get these mixed into what I already have and pull out my duplicates for going into the for sale pile, I guess. So this is just some of the more traditional tool and die type tooling that you find. The cool thing about this stuff is that quite likely all of this stuff was made right there in the shop. This was probably not stuff that was bought off the shelf. Some of it may have been, like the 1, 2, 3 blocks. I mean, these are pretty common, although a lot of tool and die makers just made their own. That's what they did for a living, was make this kind of precision stuff. These little triangle squares and stuff like that, very likely homemade. In fact, this block right here, you basically got some V's up on the top for clamping round stock in. I'm sure this was probably made for a specific job. They needed to have it up this high for some reason. This would clamp down, but if you look right here, it's got someone's initials, MDH. That's who made that. That's not a maker's mark as far as, well, it is a maker's mark, but not like a manufacturer's mark. This one right here is pretty cool. Again, I'm sure this was a homemade fixture, but you would could flip this up out of the way. I'll say you can. There you go. You put a piece of round something in here. You had a stop down here in the bottom. This was adjustable. So you would clamp that in, you clamp your piece of round stock in, and now you had something you could go like to a surface grinder and grind the length of a piece of round stock, round bar, and have them all the same. So you could like take one out, put another one in, drop it in, it'd be in the exact same spot, and you could grind it right in. I got some angle plates here. There's another V block. And again, this one here has got MDH, same guy that made this, made that one. And this was one that was custom made, probably for some specific job. You note back here, they've got some relief mill down here. So probably had, you know, something turned in that shaft that they needed to drop down in here and still be able to work on it, but they had some clearance in there for whatever part that was that they were working on. So just a custom made tool. This is just a little clamp that you could put like in a vise on a surface grinder or something like that, or chuck it down on the plate of a surface grinder, a magnetic chuck, where you could clamp something in place. So just something that they needed. These 1, 2, 3 blocks are called 1, 2, 3 blocks because they're 1 inch thick this way, they're 2 inches this way, and they're 3 inches that way. And these are usually precision ground to very tight tolerances, so you can go grab some of different, you know, whatevers and be able to stack something up and kind of make a custom fixture. These are 1, 2, 2 blocks, so 1 inch by 2 inch by 2 inch. This is kind of an unusual piece. Usually you see 1, 2, 3, and you see 2, 4, 6 blocks. I don't have any 1, 2, 2s, but I do now. So again, I'm sure these were all custom made. This is a sign plate. So if you needed to grind a very specific angle, this actually hinges up, and you would put a stack of gauge blocks up underneath here. You would calculate how much you needed for whatever angle you needed to grind, and you would take this to the surface grinder. You have plates or holes here to clamp something, work down on this. It has some edges on here where you can butt it up against the edge and it'd be square. This is kind of neat. I've got some sign plates that are like about this size, but they all hinge on the short dimension. This one hinges on the long dimension, so kind of cool. And more than likely, again, a shop-made tool. I was looking to see if I saw someone's initials in this one somewhere. I don't, but I'd be willing to bet you that this was made in the shop and maybe even for a particular job. This one here, MDH also. So these three tools were all definitely made by the same tool maker. The other ones, I don't see any marks in them. I've got a bunch of this type of stuff that I keep over in a drawer, and that comes in handy from time to time. So we'll put them over there and have them when we need them. Got a set of Mitutoyo brand parallels, and these are actually for using on the surface grinder. These are transfer block parallels. So you can put these up on your magnetic chuck, and whenever you turn the magnet on, the magnetic force will actually work through this. This one happens to be steel and aluminum. A lot of them I see are steel and brass, but because of the way you have these together, the magnetic force from your chuck will actually transfer up through these. So if you need to block something up or use parallels or something and still have the magnetic force on your chuck, these are really handy. I've got some in different sizes that I use on my surface plate, and that'll be a nice little set to add to my collection, because I don't think I've got some exactly that size. Most of them are bigger than that. So anyway, cool. Here's some miscellaneous stuff. So we got a bunch of hex wrenches here, Allen wrenches, whatever you want to call them, hex keys, some pretty good size ones. I've got a bunch of these sorted out over there in one of my drawers. I'll put those in there where they go. We got some brass or bronze here. Don't know exactly what alloy it is, but that's always nice to have some of that stock around, because that stuff's expensive when you got to go buy it. Got some set of feeler gauges here. These are just different thicknesses for measuring with. This here is a screw pitch gauge, so you open that up, and if I can get it to open up, there you go. So you got different leafs in here with different screw pitches on it, and those look like inches, so threads per inch, 20, 18, 16, 14, etc. And a bunch of center drills in different sizes. These things are getting expensive if you got to buy new ones. And again, I've got a bunch of these sorted out over there in my cabinets in different sizes, so I'll put these in, and those will get used for sure. Those get used all the time. Oh boy, got a bunch of little bitty, teeny tiny bits and parts and pieces, but you know, this again, it's the kind of stuff you always need. And I've actually got in my cabinets most of the stuff sorted out and in the right place, but I'm gonna have to go through this. This is not sorted out, so you know, we got some carbide burrs in here, some carbide tips or carbide inserts. I'm not sure even what those are. Some socket set screws, socket cap screws, socket set screws. Here's some little stone burrs for putting in die grinders. Those are always handy. Some dowel pins. These are hardened dowel pins. I got some cabinets over there where all these sorted out. I don't have to go through there and sort all those out. Some thumb screws and more socket cap screws, some little end mills. Yeah, the problem with this stuff is it just takes so long to separate it out, sort it out, but it's all good stuff that you can use. There's a little sharpening stone. Anyway, I don't know if I get to that today or not, but eventually we'll sort through this and get it where it needs to go. And this is what I'm talking about, sorting it out. I've got cabinets over here where this is socket set screws. And typically what I have done is, if I'm ever working on a project and I need a socket set screw that's a certain size, and I need, you know, 2 or 3 of them for a project, I'll order a box of them, and then I'll put them over here in my cabinet, and then the next time I need one that size, I have it. And if I don't have it, I'll order it and I'll put it in the box, and eventually you get a collection of, you know, usable stuff, and it just makes life a lot easier. At least that's kind of what I've done. So this is literally, you know, a lifetime's supply of ordering a box of this and a box of that, but having them all organized where I can go find them is the key. You know, same thing with socket cap screws. There's just some, I got another drawer with bigger ones in them, but you know, I will take those over there, sort them out, put them in the right bins. If I don't have a bin for that size, I'll make a bin for that size. And then when I need one, it's easy to come over here and dig one out. Really makes life a lot easier, having good shop organization. And I'm not going to say my shop's the perfect for that, but I try really hard. And there's always stuff to be sorted through and put up and get to going, but when you need it and you can put your hands on it, that's the key. There's lots of stuff. I know I got it, but I don't know where it's at. If I got it organized, I can put my hands on it. It really makes life easier. More stuff here. This is a little homemade inspection plate for inspecting parts under. If you were mass producing something, you need to check a size for, a particular size, you could, set this indicator up and down and have it where, it read 0 at a certain place, and you could tell if it was plus or minus whatever. So, you would just stick your part up underneath here and it would measure it. This is a homemade one. That's just a steel plate that they've got sitting on some socket cap screws for leveling feet. And this was all made here. The bars and the knob, everything was shop made. But you can buy these. I think I used to have, I think I don't have any more, but I used to have one of these that was on a piece of granite, about the same size for doing inspection work on. I don't do a lot of inspection work because I'm not mass producing parts. Usually I just measure each part, but if you're cranking out tens of thousands of the same part, you need to check them real quick. This is a really quick way to just put things up underneath it. For me, making 1 or 2 parts, it's easier to just measure the part than it is to go through here and get this thing set up for, repeat checking things. But really a nice thing, if you're doing production work, they're really, really nice for inspecting stuff. Let's see, a couple other things here. We got some fire bricks. These are some pretty brand spanking new fire bricks. These are really handy if you're brazing something or using the torch and you don't want to, you can set this on your welder's table, bench, or whatever, and this creates a heat barrier. So now your welding table doesn't become a heat sink if you're trying to heat something up. So, and you can even take these little bricks and put them together and kind of make a little oven for, for something. If you need to heat treat something or something like that, you can. It looks like that's maybe what they did here, is they kind of had it where they could build a little tunnel there and have an area in there that was for doing a heat treat or something. But I've got some fire bricks. I don't have any like this, but this would be nice to have over in my brazing area, my torch area. And then this is full, okay, 2 things. So these are all little sharpening stones of different kinds, little slip stones. These are awesome for just all kinds of things. If you're cleaning up something, got a little burr on something, need to file it out. Yeah, nice to have these laying around. These things here are for lapping holes. There's typically a shaft, and then you got the little brass piece on here that you can tighten up. And as you tighten it up, there's usually a nut on the end. I don't see it on this one, but when you tighten that up, it expands it a little bit, and you can put some lapping compound on that. And this is for lapping holes. I've got a bunch of these laps, and I'm just going to put these over there with them. These are mostly just the barrels. Like I said, I don't have the mandrels to put them on, but I've got some mandrels over there. This will give me some extras. But, it's not something I've done a lot of, lapping holes. But if you need a very precision bore in something, you can, use these to kind of finish it out and get that surface finish on the inside and get it to a really precise size. Again, tool and die guys use this kind of stuff all the time. I'm typically not knitting a hole with that kind of precision on the inside, but occasionally I've used them, but just not very often. So I got a whole bunch of counter bores over here of different sizes and what have you. Some of these are fixed ones. Some of these you can put different pilots in them. This one here has where you can put in a little adjustable pilot. The pilot's separate, so depending on the size of the bore you want to do versus the counter bore. What these are used for is if you got like a socket cap screw like this right here, and you want the head to go down up underneath the surface. So for example, here's one of those 1, 2, 3 blocks, and we want to be able to drop that socket cap screw in there and have the head go beneath the surface so it's not sticking up above the surface. Well, you would drill your hole, and then you would come back with one of these counter bores, and you would bore that out. You know, basically the center part's the size of the hole that you just drilled. This is the size you want for the larger diameter, and you just bore it out, and you got a square bottom hole in there. Like I said, some of these are made for like a socket cap screw where you have a fixed ratio. Some of these you can change out the little piece on the inside, so you can basically adjust it out like you want to. A whole bunch of these in different sizes. Really handy tools to have. I've got a bunch of these sorted out again over there in the cabinet, so when I need them I can go grab one. Now I've probably got 4 times the number that I used to have, and I'm sure I got a lot of duplicates in here, but hopefully I can fill in some of my holes in my cabinet over there on some sizes I don't currently have, because again, this is one of those things that as I've needed them over the years, I've kind of ordered the ones that I needed, and occasionally I've gotten some sets that had a couple of, different sizes in them, but this is a really pretty, I'm not going to say complete set, but it's got a pretty wide range of cutters in it, so it'd be nice to have these. So we got a bunch of indicator holders. These are what I call snugs for little going on this type of things, tightening them up to hold different pieces. Some screws and stuff. These are some backs that you can put like on this is an indicator back. It screws on the back of an indicator, but you can take one of these and put up into the hole there, tighten that up, and that gives you a mounting bracket to mount your indicator to something. So I've actually made some of these before. I think there's a video of me making some of those before. I mean, I got a bunch of them. These are some, again, for holding indicators and what have you. These are surface gauges. You use these over on your surface plate. You use the snugs here to have a branch off coming off of them in different arms like this. You'd come in here with a different arm, and you can mount indicators to these for doing comparative measurements on the surface plate and doing all kinds of things. They're really handy. Of course, these are indicator holders, the old school type. I'm more of a fan of the more modern Noga type indicator holders that we have out now, but these were what was standard for many, many years. There's nothing wrong with them, but the Nogas are just so much nicer. So anyway, this is all indicator type related stuff for the most part. And yeah, these are some nice things to have around. I use these surface gauges a lot in my scraping for doing precision measurements and stuff. So we got an assortment of R8 end mill holders. So these are fit ups in R8 collet on like a Bridgeport milling machine, and you got holders down here for different size end mills. So this one looks like probably 1.25 inches, 1.8 inches, something like that. And they go down to different size holes in there, so you can mount end mills in there instead of using a collet to do that. This just gives you more firmer control. You can actually lock it in place with a set screw, and you don't have to worry about your tool spinning in there. So for some applications, these are really nice, particularly when you need to use a larger end mill than will fit into a collet. And then we got some boring bars down here. Most of these are for high-speed steel. There's one for like a carbide insert lathe tool. But again, some boring bars and end mill holders. And finally, I think this is the last box of stuff that was in that lot. A whole bunch of taps of various sizes and pitches, and yet something else that I'll have to go through and sort through and put where they need to go. Kind of like I have my cabinet of hardware over there, I've got a cabinet with taps in there all separated out, again, so that I'm not digging through coffee cans looking for this tap I need. I can just go pick it out of the drawer and find the one I need. Most of these taps, just looking at them, appear to be in pretty sharp condition. They look a lot better than some of the taps I've got in my cabinet. And of course, we even got some brand new ones here in the box. So I'll get these sorted out and put up over in my drawer. Let me show you my tap drawer, because it took a lot of work. I don't know how many boxes of taps I had laying around the shop, and I don't know, probably a year or a year and a half ago, I had friend here in the shop helping me one Saturday or Sunday afternoon or something, and we just sorted taps out and got them all sorted out, and man, has that been a game changer, having all that stuff organized. Let me show you those real quick. So this cabinet over here, I got tap handles and stuff in the top drawer, some die stocks. You go down, here's dies, die handles, and then we got the dies in here for various sizes, all the way from a 0.4 screw up to 1.5 inch 8. And I'm not gonna say I have every size, but if I just had one tap like this one, or die, well, like this is a 1/4 27. That's an oddball, but one of these days I'll need it. Here's a 1/4 28 left hand. So even if there's just one, I created a spot for it. Let's go on down. These are Greenfield tap and die screw plates. I love these for if you got to run a die down something. I prefer these over the thread dies, particularly on the bigger size stuff, but I've got these even going down to some pretty small sizes. Those are all taps. That's for my taps up to 7/8 of an inch. And some of my containers in there are pretty full. Some of them, we got plenty of room, so we'll sort through those and fit them in here. And I may pull out some of the ones that maybe don't look as good as some of those over there. Typically with a tap, if I go and use a tap and it's not cutting good, I just throw it in the garbage. But I try to keep them and use them. And like I said, some of these probably aren't worth keeping, but you don't know until you try them. So I'll try them, and a lot of these are in great shape. These are my taps 1 inch and above, and so on and so on. And then over, I'm not going to show you, but over in my other cabinet next to it, I've got metric stuff. So metric taps and dies. I don't have near as many metric as I do these, but I do have some metric size. Probably one drawer that's just full of metric taps and dies. Whereas I got 4 drawers here of just the Imperial stuff. I've also got a cabinet over there for pipe taps and dies. So anyway, nice to have all this stuff organized. Phew, that was a lot of stuff. And I've got it pretty much all put up except for some of the stuff I got to sort through, and the taps, or the dies here, or taps rather. I'm going to go ahead and get these sorted out here before I leave the shop. I got about an hour or so before I got to go up and go do something else. So I'm going to try to get these sorted out, put in the cabinet, and I'll have my workbench cleaned out again. I've still got probably enough episode to do a whole nother odds and ends of stuff over there that's not even related to this, but I've already gone way over, I'm sure, on time on this video, so that's going to be a wrap. Guys, as always, thanks for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Those thumbs up comments really help out a lot. Please do that if you can do so. Big, huge thank you to those who support the site financially through Patreon, PayPal, and through YouTube memberships. All those methods really help out a lot as well. And with that, guys, we're going to sign off. We'll catch you on the next video. As always, thanks for watching.